We're blessed to have guests today because of Preacher's Luncheon, and we certainly appreciate having you here. It may be that after the lesson today, you want to interact with students and offer some corrections and expansions of what we talk about and give it even more meaning, and you'll certainly be welcome to do that. I'm supposed to think with you about the role of the minister in community and church. One of the things I absolutely hate is false dichotomy, either or, when it's both and. That kind of thinking will make a mess of us. We need, as ministers, as Christians, to love the Lord's church and serve the church faithfully, but we need to love our communities and call them toward God through the gospel. And part of how we do that is through our lives. I'll apologize for my examples being all Western, but I'm Western. Now we have Asian, European, South American, African representation in the room today. And you're all bright, so you'll add your implications and applications to what we do, and it'll help us later at lunch and beyond to hear from you and know how you do some of these things even better than we might do it here. The devil loves extremes. Extremes mean imbalance, and imbalance puts us in the ditch. Devil doesn't want us on God's road, doesn't want us in the middle of the Bible. He really doesn't care right ditch, left ditch. As long as you're off the road, he's happy. There are some ministers who are shining, bright, gifted orators. They look good, talk good, preach really well. And the devil will always say to those people, read 2 Timothy 2 and verse 4, no one entangled in warfare, no one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted him. Serve God. Serve God only. Keep thyself to the church building. Do thy work in the building. Do not get entangled with the community around you. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. There are other preachers who are more workaday and relationally oriented, and the devil will say to them, quoting the Lord, the second is likened to it. Love your neighbor as yourself. I've become all things to all men, that by all means I might save some. It's not either or. It's not one verse versus another. It's both and. The folks who don't really want you to get involved in community, they say some really odd things. Don't vote. Don't participate with a local PTA. Don't be a member of a civic club. Don't attend the ball games. Stay with the Lord's work because the gospel deserves all your attention. On the other hand, the folks who are really pro-community involvement and don't sometimes realize no soul is ever saved without the preaching of the gospel leading to faith and obedience, they'll say, do everything you can in your community always. Never say no to anything or anybody. If it's good or honorable, go for it. And you'll find yourself run into frazzled if you try to live that way. I'm old. I've done a lot of dumb things. I've been in the ditch, right and left. Don't want you to be there. What do we do in terms of loving the church, loving the gospel, serving the church, and loving our community that'll make us appreciated, not for the sake of being appreciated, but for the sake of adorning the gospel? The sake of being heard better in the community where we live and where we preach. I like it when preachers coach Little League or help the soccer team. I like it when we read to kids at the local library. I like it when we tutor in a local school and help somebody get better at what they're doing. I've appreciated preachers who are EMTs and work with the local fire department. At Mars Hill, our membership's a little older than average. We've had 2 ambulance visits to our services in the last month. One of the things I absolutely love about Chris Moran being our preacher is he is EMT trained. Whenever somebody has chest pains or falls out, "Yo, Chris," and I leave. Not leave the premises, but leave the immediate area. I'm of no help in that. And he is senior EMT on site, and he works with them well until our friends come in the fire truck and the ambulance. I appreciate it when we visit the hospitals and the nursing homes and we see more people than just our own members. Talk about false dichotomy. Some people saying you should serve only the church, only the brethren, and not deal with these other folks. Everybody in the church has family. And when you deal with their families honorably and in a gospel-oriented, evangelistic way, you're really blessing the church. There's no way to separate the two. I love community involvement at the level of put your shopping cart in the rack. Don't let it roll away and whoop somebody. And while you're taking yours, take the one somebody else left at the same time. I love community involvement in terms of give blood. Doesn't hurt much. They give you free cookies. Sometimes you get a t-shirt. Be known in your community as somebody who cares. I've done funerals for folks I didn't even know. They're odd to do, but I don't mind them calling me to do that because I'm supposed to know the Lord, and you can always speak highly of the Lord in any given circumstance or situation. I love it when people vote. You don't even have to vote my way. In fact, what I'd recommend to young ministers is vote always. Keep your mouth shut about it. Don't tell people much about how or why you voted because you're guaranteed to offend about 50% of the population when you do that. Take care of your yard. Don't be that guy in the neighborhood who never mows or never rakes. Wash your car. Just be a good neighbor all the way around. What we're thinking about here is balance in our work. And we absolutely love balance. But if you noticed how hard it is to identify balance, I can promise you, when you go to work for a given congregation, you inherit a boatload of expectations. You encounter a boatload of history. If the guy who was there before you as preacher was very community involved and you're not, you're going to look like a lazy jerk. Know the history and to some positive measure, embrace that history. If, on the other hand, the guy who was there before you was so outstanding in the pulpit, so outstanding in class, that he didn't have much time and didn't give much time to the community, if you choose to give a little more time to the community, you're going to look neglectful to some of the brethren. And you'll really want to watch and weigh that. You'll find some old folks in the congregation who were sweet, smart, wise. With the age, there's wisdom. Ask them about these things and let them coach you up. One of the coolest things to do is to say to some of those trusted, beautiful, sweet people, I'm young, I'm new at this, I need your help. Would you watch my back? When you find me doing something dumb or looking wrong, will you tell me about it so I can fix it early and minimize the damage? Not only will they love you for asking them, chances are they'll help you do it also. Stage of life has a lot to do with how involved we can be in the community on top of all our work with the church directly. There are only 128 hours in a week, and you're not going to get any more of those, young or old. In your younger years, you may have more discretionary time. No children yet. So you can do a boatload of things. It may be you can string 3 days together without sleeping and still function fairly well. Some of us can't do that at all anymore. In the old days, I've done everything from move furniture to mow lawns, to trim shrubs, to wash cars. Now I've kind of cut it back to mowing the shrubs at church, and I still like trimming them because sometimes that kind of thing is just therapeutic. But now I'm more likely to spend extra time in the community with hospital visits or palliative care chaplaincy or emergencies and things like that. Do what the Lord puts in front of you. Embrace it and welcome it. Whatever we do to the glory of God. We do with the strength God gives, and it gives us a lot of help. Well, I'm recommending about balance with community involvement and direct work with the Lord's people only. Involve your elders. Ask them how you're doing. Tell them what you're thinking about doing, and let them give you an opinion. Elders are not always the sharpest knife in the drawer. I try to be one now, and I can say that with no disrespect at all. But sometimes they are pretty sharp as a group. That's why the Lord established eldership. Stay out of the Lone Rangerism and opinions and such like. Elders, as a rule, love to be asked. And when you consult them before you make a decision and obligate yourself, you've been respectful. You've looked good. Sometimes you'll do that and absolutely regret it. You'll have in your heart an idea for community involvement, your community involvement. You're going to be giving your own time and doing this in addition to all your other work, and your elders will say, no, please don't do that. And then you have great opportunity. The devil's version of that opportunity is those old jerks. You can't say that, you're fired if you do. But you'll think it, and you'll be wrong. Sometimes those guys know things about the community and ministry that we don't know yet. And sometimes them saying no to us is them giving us the structure we need to thrive, protecting us from ourselves, helping us have maximum opportunity to benefit. I love the fact that it's balance. It's not either or. You think about Acts 6, dispute over the Grecian widows, not getting enough food in the daily distribution. One of the things said for us in Acts 6 by the apostles, it is not desirous that we should leave the preaching of the word to serve tables. Now, if I don't want to serve tables, I don't exactly read the verse that way. I read the verse a little more restrictively. It is wrong for me as a trained minister to neglect, even for a moment, the preaching of the word. I don't do tables. If you're a minister, you do tables. It's okay to do it. There's truth in Acts 6 too. The preaching of the word comes first. And that is important for us. You may be wondering, why in the world did we do the odd reading from Acts 28? No accidents in Scripture. All Scripture's God-breathed. It's a miracle story, so it's important. We love it. But there, an apostle of Jesus Christ, the apostle we know the most about, was involved in his temporary community in Malta. The shipwreck happened. Perfect to do this on a cold, rainy day. It's cold and rainy. The natives of that place didn't know these guys on the ship. They owe them nothing. They extend to them a degree of hospitality. Because it's cold and rainy, they build a fire. It also occurs to me that it's not the easiest to build a fire when it's rainy, but they did this. And how did Paul find the snake? He's picking up sticks. He's being part of the community. He wasn't too good to do what needed to be done in the moment. We're never too good to do what needs to be done in the moment. And the better we serve, the better people will hear our preaching. I love that. Please don't let your congregation sell you on the myth that you're here for us. Don't deal with the community. Now, very few would do that, but if they ever tried to do that, remember the good book. We love Galatians 6 and 10. As we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. Even of elders, 1 Timothy 3 and verse 7, they must have a good testimony from those who are outside. You don't get a good testimony without good behavior, without service. At the same time, never ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is the power of God's salvation to everyone who believes. Nobody's ever been saved merely by or only by community service, no matter how well that community service is done. We love good sense. We love biblical balance. We love good hearts guided by Scripture. Back to that analogy of the road, staying on the Bible road, not right ditch, not left. How will you know you're doing a really good job of balancing your service to the church directly and your service to the community? Probably you'll know because people will come to you within the same week and say, I know you're doing a good job with your preaching, but I think you're spending a little too much time in the community. Could you just be at the church building a little more? And in that same week, some other good soul will come to you and say, I know you really love your preaching and you believe every word of the gospel, but couldn't you get out of the office a little more and find yourself in the community day in and day out? When you hear that, cha-ching, you are balanced. You're on target. We don't compartmentalize. Jesus owns all of us. We love Him, heart, soul, mind, and strength. And when we love Him that way, everything we do with an eye toward honoring God, promoting, preaching, teaching, living the gospel to the saving of souls. Thank you much.